Ciao and welcome back or welcome to my Be Kind Fox channel and to my playlist of identity videos. I am talking about the identity if you have multiple origins, and especially if you and your partner have multiple origins and maybe live in a third country, and your children by that have multiple origins. And this is a point where children mainly need a lot of support, but mainly they need somebody who is aware that this is a topic and help them to develop their own identity, because it is not developing automatically. Which is a pity, but sometimes life is like that, and the main point is to become aware of it. As soon as you realize that there might be a topic that people who have multiple origins should at least think about it, if they define their identity by one or more countries of origins of the parents, or exclusively by the country where they grow up in, or as we have seen in my interview with Anna Seidel, they just don't relate to any of their factual origins and decide to be citizens of the world, which is wonderful. But you have to think about it, and children don't become aware of it by themselves. So as a parent, if you become aware of it, you can support them. So after all those topics that we discussed, be it country, be it ethnicity, be it language, be it geography, in this one I want to talk about nostalgia. And this nostalgia is something that all expats, and I heard a comedian a few days ago saying expats is a word for privileged white people. I want to use it in the general way. So all people who willingly or unwillingly are living in a different country. Unwillingly may also be just, from their ancestors, or they had to flee from a war or whatever. There are so many reasons why you end up in a different country than the one you feel bonded to. Let's call those people expats because they are outside of their originary country. And if they have multiple origins, the topic doesn't get easier. So those expats, those of us who are expats directly know that there is a nostalgia about our original country, the one that we feel is our country, where our heart is. And this nostalgia means that many of us spend their lives in thinking, once I have done this, I will go back home. We still call this country of our heart home, even if we don't live there since 10, 20, 50 years. And this constant thought of, once this or that is done, is finished, is reached, I will go back home. And I mentioned already in a video before that at a certain point, some of us realize, now that this final point is reached, where you always said, I will go back home, it's not always happening, because sometimes they realize in the meantime they have built up roots to their new country, and they didn't realize, or they didn't want to realize. But once the time had come to take the decision to leave everything there and to go back home, they realize, no, No, I want to stay here, which is hard to swallow, not easy to realize, but it happens. And until that moment, this nostalgia happens to just jump on your heart in very different moments. Be it that you hear a song in your native language. I don't know how many times it happened to me that I was sitting in Germany in a restaurant, maybe in a bar, in a cafe, and then in the radio they came an Italian song, and I just had tears in my eyes because it caught me by surprise, and it just assaulted me. It was a nostalgia of, I want to go home. And yes, this happens to many of us. Or food. And not only the meals that you know from your parents, your grandparents, that are traditional in your native country or country of origin, but also the ingredients. How difficult is it to get the original ingredients? And nowadays, where we have this global market, it is much easier. I remember 30, 40 years ago when I went to Italy, coming back to Germany, I had the car full of pasta, of coffee, of tuna, of all the ingredients that were or difficult to find, or so high priced that it didn't make sense, or they were copycats. So you still find, not still, you find, for instance, mozzarella done by not Italian companies that, for me, doesn't look at all and doesn't smell and taste at all like mozzarella. So you are trying to have the original ingredients with the original taste and consistency and so on. And you try to get them, and not only that, but you also try to get them without having to pay a fortune. Imagine being Indian and how difficult must it be to have all those spices that they use in a completely different country. So, or you find a market where some connationals import the spices, or you have to order it via the internet, or whenever you fly back to your country, you then buy whatever you can. And then many of us know that there are all those rules about what you are allowed to import in another country food-wise, which is very restrictive sometimes, with all the rights. So I understand completely that one country doesn't want to have bacteria or viruses that could be in this food in their country. It's all okay, but you have this nostalgia, and I have seen several videos of people just being desperate because at the airport of their landing in their country of residence, their bags were opened and they were not allowed to take many of the things they had bought at home to bring to be able to cook the traditional meals. So all those things, and we know that the senses, the hearing of songs and language, the smelling of aromas and the taste are very directly influencing our emotions. So those things bring back or awake this nostalgia that we have for the original country. But the point is, how strange must it feel if you are a child of two people coming from another country, but you are already born in the new country, and you grow up with the stories and the legends and the dishes of the original country or countries of your parents. And maybe you have been there, seeing your relatives living there, but it was just on holidays, not a real living, going to school, going to work. The situation is different. We know that also those children, or when they then grow up and are adults, still, they feel this nostalgia. And I've seen there is a German band whose members are all half German, half Turkish, and they play songs in Turkish and in German. And the band leader, I guess, he said, why am I feeling this nostalgia to a country that I didn't really know, or not know really in depth, because I hadn't been born there, I didn't grow up there, I just went there for holidays. And this might be confusing, because you feel something that by fact you maybe should not feel, or you think you should not feel, but you do have these emotions. And what I learned in my life is, whatever emotion you have, first of all, take it seriously, because there is no wrong or right emotion to feel in that moment. The point is, do we really live all the emotions? Do we externalize the emotions? Because there are some that you better get under control. But this feeling of nostalgia for a country that you feel as yours, but that by fact maybe is not yours, whoever wants to define that, must feel strange. But then again, as mentioned so many times, nobody should have your permission to tell you what you are allowed to feel and what you're not allowed to feel, because your feelings are yours. And they are your reality. And you have every right to feel the emotions you feel. And a few days ago, I read in a book 2 sentences which made me think again. One was, and both are related to death, but I hope you're not afraid of this topic. I'm not. I'm living close to the cemetery. The first one was, where do I want to die? Which is a strong question, and I never thought about that, I must admit. And I don't know if I will really try to think about it, because for me death is something that at a certain point happens, and none of us knows when it will happen. So why should I think about where I want to die if I can't influence anyhow when it will happen? It could happen today, it could happen in 40 years, and I don't know. But of course it gives you this indication of what do you feel is your home. Because I guess most of us would like to die at home. For me personally, I would rather think about whom do I want to have close to me when I die? Whom do I want to hold my hand and talk to me until my last breath? And that the answer to that question is absolutely easy and clear. It's my daughter, of course. But I never thought about where do I want to die. Of course at home, not in the hospital, if ever possible. But again, death is so unknown, the moment and the circumstances, that I just don't think about it. I just try to avoid it by now. And the second question was, where do I want to be buried? And this I get a bit more, because this is something you can think about as long as you live. And for some people it might be very clear because there is a family grave and they want to be buried there with their parents and their grandparents and so on. For some people, the answer might be easy because they say, I just don't care because it's just my material body. So wherever I die, just bury my body. I don't care. But this also gives you, if you have this feeling of, I want to have my body laid where I feel that my home is. Normally, I guess everybody would love to have the grave in the most beautiful spot they know. So there are people who who would love to be in a forest, under a tree, and this is possible in some countries, for the ashes at least. So you get cremated and then the ashes are put below a tree in a cemetery forest, which is a beautiful picture for those who love forests. For me, the most beautiful image would be to be somewhere where the sun shines and the ocean is nearby. In this, of course, stupid image of me laying in the earth and feeling the warmth of the sun and hearing the waves, which is, of course, stupid because when you're dead you don't see anything and you don't hear anything and you don't feel anything, at least your body doesn't anymore. But again, we are not all completely mind-driven, brain-driven people. We have feelings, even if some of us would try to avoid to admit it, but we do have feelings. So even if they are irrational, we can just think about it and be aware of them. So maybe these topics create new ideas in your brains or new feelings in your hearts. And this is exactly the purpose of my videos. I don't have a guideline. I don't have a rule what you have to do, what you don't have to do. For me, the point is to share all the points that came to my mind or that were brought to my mind. And if this brings clarity to you, if this makes you think about it, if this inspires you to have your own thoughts and take your own conclusions, and if you by that feel supported a bit better, or if you by that can support your children better, then this was exactly the purpose of my videos. So thank you for listening so far. I hope you liked that argument. And if you did, please leave me a like. If possible, please subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it might bring something to me at the end. And as always, be kind.